So we're talking around a couple of these different tools already. So let's just be really specific. What are tools we suggest men and women use when preventing relapse, when working toward that? And then how do we best use those tools?
Yeah, I mean, immediately the faster skill is one of the ones that we really drill into the guys. And then as you go through the group, 3 circles to help identify your guardrails, which is one of the things Nick was talking about, is those areas where I'm edging towards something. And I think one of the things I heard you say in a previous podcast that I thought was so interesting, Nick, is being in that guardrail is not necessarily a relapse, but if you stay there long enough, you will end up in relapse. And so, identifying what those guardrails are and becoming aware of them, and then recognizing, am I? Because some of those things that they're on the edge there could be healthy behaviors, but they can also be used as a form of numbing. When I was in counseling, my counselor forbid me from reading books for a while because he said that's part of your way of escaping is you read books under the guise of self-help,
Right.
looking for, something you think is missing. And so he said, you can only read the books I give you. And so there's a lot of what you might call white addictive behavior that can look good, and it can be good, but it can also be a form of medicating. And I think becoming aware of that and recognizing that I am reading these sport pages or looking at videos or numbing out and binge watching TV because I'm trying to escape how I feel.
Yeah. I think having that relapse prevention plan, 3 circles tool is clear where you've identified what a relapse is, you've identified your guardrails, you've identified your healthy behaviors. And another tool that we've seen be crucial is the recovery action plan, or I think in some places too, it's been called a recovery
Relapse prevention plan?
No, there's it used to be called safety plan.
Yeah,
Second
safety
advanced
plan.
safety
I feel like in the Unraveled, we maybe have another name for it. But anyway, it's the same concept, is it's defining ahead of time what are the steps I'm going to take proactively when I'm recovering from a relapse. And it includes some natural and logical consequences that I have agreed to enter into it as a way of retraining my brain and teaching myself that this matters and I don't want to go here and it's hurtful to other people. And so I want to kind of feel the hurt to me in ways that actually cause me to grow, because my brain doesn't like to experience pain. And a lot of times when we're stuck in an addictive pattern, the only real pain we've experienced is our own guilt and shame, and maybe that fear of people finding out. But then after a few days, maybe that goes away and we forget all those commitments we've made. But when we actually have to, provide for our spouse to go on a day retreat for some health and recovery, when we have to sleep on the couch for a month because our spouse doesn't feel safe with us in the bedroom, when we have to, donate all of what we would normally spend on our hobbies or something for fun, when we have to donate that to a nonprofit that fights sex trafficking. Those are things that now we feel in a different way, and the brain begins to connect the dots that when we're tempted to relapse or go to that behavior, the brain goes, whoa, this isn't worth it, because I already know I've said I will tell my group and my spouse and my pastor within 24 hours. I've agreed I'll take these steps. And it's just like, well, suddenly the reasons of, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, no, it is. It is a big deal. And knowing it's there, it's kind of the Murphy's Law. Like if you have it, you won't need it. But if you don't have it, you'll wish you did, because then there's just not kind of the parameters in place to help you. So I think that, and honestly, a relapse prevention tool that we don't think of that way often enough is those regular phone calls to others that are on the recovery journey with us. Because we get too stuck in the habit, and I know I fall into this, where we just think I'm doing fine, I don't need to make phone calls, I don't really want to spend time on this. But it's those regular phone calls when we're doing well that gets us in the pattern enough that when we do start to slip towards something unhealthy, we're already in the pattern of phone calls. So we're like, I need to call and talk to someone about this. Because what I have found is when we're not regularly making phone calls and we think, well, when I really need someone, I'll reach out. The truth is, once we get there, we don't. We come up with other reasons that they'll be busy, or I don't want to bother them, or I don't really need them. And we don't make the calls when we really do need it. And so that tool of like, make your regular group phone calls week in and week out, especially when you don't need them, because that's going to set you up to actually make them when you do.
I think just another kind of peripheral one too is just accountability software having. That's another good thing to have in your toolkit. And even as I say that, just to be clear that like all of the tools we're talking about, it's not just using just one, it's using them together in concert that actually does help. And the reason why I say that is because oftentimes, even before I started recovery, I thought accountability software was the recovery plan, and it's not. So these need to be used in conjunction with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, just a side note there. One of the guys in my group, part of his recovery action plan was that he had to go shoe shopping with his wife for 2 hours every time he had a failure. So he was really motivated to not do that.
You know what's funny is that sounds amazing to me. I'd love to go
He
shoe
really
shopping.
found that disturbing, huh?
Yeah, he's like, oh my God, it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, hey, I'd say whatever it takes to communicate to your
Creative.
heart and your brain. We don't want to go there again.
Yeah.